Good afternoon. Welcome to today's edition of the Coal Scene. I'm Chris Hamilton with the West Virginia Coal Association. I'll be your host over the next half hour. Joining me in the studio this afternoon is House of Delegate member Rupert "Rupie" Phillips, who hails from Logan County, represents the 24th Delegate District. Rupie's also a member of the coal industry. He works for Gould Electric, and in that capacity, he travels around the state, visits practically every coal mining operation. Gould Electric for years have been replacing, rebuilding, providing electric motors and other mine supplies to the industry. So again, Rupie's a member of the House of Delegates, also a member of the broader coal community in his role as a vendor. So we're just so pleased to have him join us here today. Rupie, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon, Chris. It's a pleasure being here.
Well, we appreciate you taking time. I know you're in the midst of a special legislative session, and I think the day's work is done or behind you. So,
yeah, we're at recess until Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
Okay, and I know that's been a real drain, real requiring, just trying to put all those numbers together and make the budget work this year. But maybe a good place to start our conversation is just talk a little bit about Gould Electric. And
well, you know, it's owned by a father and son, Jerry Gould the father and J.C. the son.
Mm-hmm.
I've been with them since February of 2015. The father lives next door to the shop. We're in process right now of getting a shop up and running in southern part of the coal fields in Illinois. And they've been in business mid-70s. And, you know, and one thing J.C. has always said to me, we've never had a layoff. And, you know, they just strive on taking care of their employees. And I tell you what, it's been an honor working with them.
which county are they located in?
Up in Clay County, up in Endor.
Clay County, okay. I knew it was up there in sort of northeast of Charleston, if you will, towards Nicholas.
It's just outside of, just below the old Fola mines that Consol had.
Exactly. You know, you indicate they've been around since the earlier mid 70s. That's a pretty good run.
Yes, sir, it is.
For a relatively small family-owned, mine equipment company. I'm not sure we give vendors, mine suppliers their due within the industry, but they're truly part of the mining, the broader mining community. You know, they wear all the stripes as miners do, and they participate in all the issues. They care as much about mining as.
Well, you know, Chris, that's sort of what sparked me into it. One of your past Coal Association presidents, or chairman, I guess you'd call it, Randy Hansford, very good dear friend of mine, passed away last spring. When y'all had the coal truck issue going on down here at the Capitol back 03, 04, Randy asked me if I would come over and help lobby the issue. Well, heck, Chris, I didn't know anything what to do, so he set me with Randy McMillian, and I just admire Randy McMillian, both of them.
Yes.
But anyway, so we headed down the west wing and the east wing, and then afterwards we got done, and the House and the Senate went into the chamber and started their floor sessions. Randy asked me, had I ever been over here during session? I said, no, sir, I hadn't.
Wow.
Be honest, I hadn't been past the Secretary of State's office.
Okay.
So we go up into the South Gallery, and we're overlooking the House chamber, and so Randy's explaining everything to me, and it intrigued me. So over a couple years, I just started.
I'd like to have been there as he was explaining that process.
Oh yeah, Randy's a character. But anyway, it just sparked interest, and so I started doing some research, and I looked at 134 legislators. I looked at all their backgrounds, and you know, there was just a few people in there that really had coal background. And you know, a lot of teachers, a lot of insurance, lawyers, doctors, and nurses and stuff. And I'm like, you know, we need more coal people in here helping decide and bringing their thoughts to the chambers on both sides. And right now, you know, I think over on the Senate side, you got Senator Randy Smith that actually is a true coal miner. And me and him works really well about bringing some issues and educating both bodies. And I really take it with a big pride that when some other legislators come up and ask me something, and I'll be the first to say, if I don't know it, I don't care to go get an answer. I'll reach out to y'all guys, or and where I am a salesman in the industry, I've got a lot of lifelines I can reach out to. Randy was one of them there
Yeah, you have
for
your
a while.
own independent caucus, if you will, or no pun intended.
Right.
But I mean, you have good access, and like you get around a lot of the mines, you know the issues.
Oh,
And-
it's amazing how much somebody will text me or call me. Hey, when you get a chance, can you come by and this coming session? Can you look at this?
Yep.
And I really like that.
You mentioned, you were just sort of down observing, maybe down for a coal rally. And, I'm not sure, and where I was going earlier was, I'm not sure we really credit the vendor community enough for all they do. I mean, they keep this industry going. They're the guys,
They are. I mean, it's no secret. Everybody says for every one coal miner, you've got 5 people it supports.
Right.
Well, that includes those vendors,
yes.
along with the
They're on that first tier.
They're on the first tier,
They
absolutely.
are every bit of. I've always said they are every bit as part of this industry as the people who, as miners are, mine foremen who work every day underground, because they do spend a big part of their time around the mine. Their job depends.
Oh, absolutely.
on
and
the coal coming
and I
across the
admire,
boom.
and that's why one thing I admire JC and Jerry is giving me the ability to get out and campaign when I need to campaign. Give me the ability to attend outside functions away from the Capitol. But then the big step is give me that 60+ days
Yep.
to be here in Charleston, which with today's technology from cell phones and text messaging, I can communicate a lot with my customers, and I'm available 24/7 to my customers.
Well, Gold Electric is it's one of many companies. We have all the Walkers, the Rishes, the Rudds, that are the Cats that are, they're just all such an integral part, and certainly part of the overall coal economy, and they do just a tremendous job. They're there day in, day out. It doesn't matter what the weather is. They
there.
deliver the supplies. They get the equipment there.
And
gotta have them. And a lot of them are former miners.
Yes, sir, it is. And well, I think Jerry used to be a coal miner. I want to say maybe at Cannleton. I think he told me. But down in Logan County, you have the Logan County Vendors Association.
Coal vendors.
And I know Jim Winkler from
Yes.
American Hydraulic is greatly involved in that.
I'm pretty sure Jim was on the program a couple years ago.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he was a super guy.
Oh, phenomenal,
again,
great guy,
he's-
smart,
he
very smart.
does everything plus more that you ask of him.
Yes, he
He's
does.
always there.
And so Logan County has had a lot of coal vendors throughout the years. Now we've lost quite a few due to the reduction in coal mining, but
Right.
the ones that have survived right now, they're fighters.
Well, appreciate all you do. You mentioned legislatively, now you are a delegate, as they say. You mentioned Randy Smith on the Senate side.
Yeah.
And he's sort of the go-to guy there, that when a coal issue makes the agenda as part of the discussion, Randy's the guy that they want to know what his opinion is of it, and you've kind of emerged as that guy in the House.
Yeah.
I think when you first came, there were 4 or 5, 6 people with coal backgrounds, but as we sit here today, you might be the only one, unless I'm forgetting somebody, but
Yeah.
they come to you.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, the coal severance deal that we've been trying to work through with this revenue budget. And, God, just in the past 24 hours, I don't know how many people's come up to me asking me, why did the committee take it out and so forth. And it's tough decisions, but, I'm not done. I'm still fighting for it. We don't have a
Well,
budget yet.
That's right, and that's a lot of groundwork's been laid, and we're optimistic that the legislature's gonna find a way to help this industry. When you look at what this industry's done for the state, I mean, it's phenomenal. When you go back, you don't have to go back 50 years or 70. Just go back. We had this conversation yesterday. I don't know if you were with us, but all you have to do is go back 5 or 6 years. And West Virginia was one of just 3 or 4 states in the whole country that was finishing its fiscal year with a balanced budget, or within its budget.
Well, see, it was my second year, so it had been 2012 session, I think it's when it was.
Okay.
And there was 3 senators I was talking to. We was out on a balcony talking, and one of them, me and him had our own conversation going, and I made a comment to him that, you know, coal was going to take a decline in production. And he looked at me, he goes, Rupee, he goes, you're talking 110, $120 million in coal severance loss. I said, yeah. And he said, nah, he goes, I've been here 20 plus years. Coal's always done the up and down thing. I said, but here's, Senator, the thing is that you're not seeing, we are right in the middle of fighting Obama and the EPA, and we've never had to fight an animal like that. And thank God it's over. Gosh, I'm so glad it's over.
Yep.
And you know, and everything come to truth of what I told him, and ever since, you know, we've lost our coal production, the state's been in, you know, we've had to rob out a rainy day and cut programs and just slash where we could slash. And, you know, I hate cutting stuff, but, you know, I'm a firm believer if you're used to eating filet and you can't afford it, you got to eat bologna. That's what coal miners do.
Well, that's what we all do. That's what we do as West Virginians. When times get tough, we tighten the belt a little bit. We do without some of the things we normally do, and you make ends meet.
You know, probably about right around election time, Chris, it was so good to see all of this equipment being shipped out for rebuild or new equipment coming in into Southern West Virginia. I mean, you just talking about wearing a Shield of Honor, to see that stuff rolling down quarter G and 77 and 64. I mean, that's just a good thought to see, because, you know,
It is.
behind that is jobs.
First time in 5 or 6 years. I talked about a balanced budget, what appears to be just a few short years ago, but truthfully, that's been 6, 7, 8 years now.
Yeah.
You know, when we had a surplus, because we had a strong energy
Yes, sir.
market, strong energy demand, and you know, the industry alone was responsible for $500 million. I want to repeat that, $500 million for our state coffers just through severance tax, not alone income tax, property tax, you know, the tax on the sale of coal and all that.
Well, you know, there was a group of bankers come through, and one of the lobbyists come and got me that knows me and was introduced me, and they, you know, hey, Rupee sells stuff to the coal industry, and so they was asking me about, you know, how the coal was doing. I said, well, you know what, if you'd asked me last month, we were looking for 2,000 employees, 2,000 coal miners. I said, this month, we're laying 2,000 off.
Yeah.
So it flipped just like that
It
fast.
did. It did. And as you indicated, there was a lot of federal policy that we were trying to deal with and oppose and defeat. And you know, we had a president utilizing. I make this statement because all the time because it's accurate, and that is, we had a president utilizing every resource available to him, you know, to try to move away from coal. And that's a tough challenge. That's an unprecedented challenge.
Oh, it's tough to overcome, and I'm not so sure we can. I mean, you know, under Obama, you know, he pretty much shut down 410 coal-fired power plants. But the thing is, Chris, this country is not educated what all coal does. And if you ask people from, you know, years ago, give you an example. I moved down to Virginia Beach, and about second, third day I was there, I got a haircut, and a woman could tell from the way I talk I'm wanting from Virginia Beach, and you know, with a little southern twang. And so I told her I was from West Virginia, and I worked in around the coal industry. And she made the comment, I just wish they'd shut those coal mines down.
Oh.
And I asked her, I said, where do you get your electricity for your blow dryer? And she goes, oh, I just plug it into the wall. And I'm like, do you realize how it gets there?
Yeah.
And then I started educating her on it. And, you know, it was one time that, one of the first times I ever met Bill Rainey, I told Bill this story. I went to the Mine Expo in Vegas. And on the way over from the airport to my motel, there was an elderly lady, I'm going to say 70-ish or so. And she asked me if I was in town for a convention. I said, yes, coal. And she goes, oh, they still mine coal today? And I said, ma'am, the makeup you have on has a byproduct of coal in it. Wow. And then a few days later at the end of the week, we're sitting in one of the motels, and here come in a group of, I'm going to say mid-20 guys from L.A. on a bachelor party, and just saying hi to everybody, and asked everybody at the table where everybody was from. And so come to me, I said, West Virginia, well, what are you doing here? I said, for the Mine Expo, coal. They didn't even know what coal was. But then that following year, I think that was 2000, let me think here, probably, gosh, when was that? I have to go back in my mind. I want to say right around 2000, 2001. Whenever, yeah, it was 2000. Well, then you take the blackouts or brownouts that California
Yeah,
had.
that's right.
At that time.
Yep.
I mean, they just didn't know. So we really, as an industry, along with the vendors too, have got to educate the country. I mean,
Yes.
I would love to see a big education, just some common sense stuff. All the time I ask people to pull up the cold tree on Google and go to image and sit there and look at yourself. You know yourself, I've got
Yep.
that big image, that big frame picture in my office.
Wish we had an office, a picture of your office to show on.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe if we get you back here, we'll start with that.
I'll bring the picture over.
That's pretty impressive. I know you eat, drink, and sleep.
Yeah, and you know,
electricity and.
Well, and it's just that coal has done so much for this country, and the backs are turned on it. And as I told some friends earlier over at the Capitol, each year as we mine coal, it gets tougher and tougher. The gravy was took years ago.
It was.
And so now it's more costly. The mines are further underground, and so you got from point A to point B to get the men from outside to inside. You know, they might be on a man trip for 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
And when you start adding up the man hours on that, that's a lot of cost. And so and I know a lot of them does what they call hot seat, swapping out from day shift to second shift coming in, just jumping right into the piece of equipment. But they still got to pay for that hour of coming outside and going.
And when
in.
you produce as much coal as we do, a lot of people don't realize that we only, as a state, use about 25 or 30% of all the coal we mine.
Yeah.
That's all we consume. So the market within the state can only receive or handle, process third max of what we produce. So we have to rely on markets outside of West Virginia.
Out of the country.
Out of the country. And there's a lot of competition, a lot of competitive fuels. We're competing with natural gas, and renewables are getting a subsidy, perhaps unfair, but
Very.
But we're also competing with coal from 5 or 6 other states that have the potential to produce it at a lower cost.
Well, I mean, look at the coal severance in
Yes.
Ohio, 10 cents a ton. You
10 cents a ton.
Go over into Pennsylvania, zero. You go to Indiana, Illinois, zero coal severance. I think Virginia's maybe 2%. Kentucky's 4.5.
Right.
So
we've always been much more dependent on it. So
Yeah.
it's been hard for our government to reduce that level to where it's the same or lower than or equivalent to our competing states.
Well, it's just like ended up being Alpha with it, but the old Mingo Logan job down in Bend Creek, they sat there along with was it Don Nicewander, I believe, is that? And they started developing the King Coal Highway.
Yes, was Don.
And they had to sit there and fight the federal government and the EPA and Corps of Engineer and all these people over Indiana bats. And then it was the mayflies and getting, what is it? I can't remember the permit number.
Yeah, I forget now.
But anyway, you sit there and these guys want to develop a 4-lane road, do all the excavation. All they ask you to do is supply the pipe and the concrete and the asphalt.
Saving the federal government millions of dollars, millions upon millions of dollars.
It was told to me to build a 4-lane road in southern West Virginia is right at $34 million a mile.
I wouldn't
complete.
doubt that. Wouldn't doubt
And here you got Consol. I think what was about 7 or 8 miles they were wanting to develop.
Interchanges.
Yeah, I mean, so it's just, it's
We've done really well. We've done really well. When you think back, there was a lot of criticism, a lot of debate on post-land development 20 years ago, 15 years ago. And since that time, the state, with some planning with county commissions and all, they have done it's just been a masterful job of some of the post-mine land development.
Look down in Logan, look at the airstrips that the National Guard uses. We're having the Royal Air Force come over here and train on dropping and landing on a dirt strip.
They've been doing that in Logan. They've been doing that out Clay, the FOLA job, where they've used post-mine land. just down the Andrew Jordan.
I was
has an
getting ready to say,
operation.
Andrew, I've been up there.
They had an obstacle course for the MRAP vehicles.
Yeah.
They have a little barrack up there where people in the service are coming from around the country to stay here as they train. Had a rifle range.
I mean, so there's a lot of ways to diversify and use this post-mine property. And you know, that's just like developing. Let's say we, in the near future, be able to get some coal companies to do some mountaintop removal, but develop the Coalfield Expressway or help develop the portions of the King Coal Highway.
Put that whole road in as a post line.
And
It
put
can
it
be
in
done.
Absolutely, and put some infrastructure up there and possibly bring some manufacturing here. I'm all about trying to diversify. We all know coal's not going to last forever,
Right.
but it's here.
It is.
And it's beyond my lifetime and my little girl's lifetime and probably her kid's lifetime of coal being mined. But again, it's going to get tough. But you know what? We can use it to develop other stuff to bring to southern West Virginia and to other parts of the state.
Used to call it somewhat of an interim fuel in industry, you know, helping to bridge to the future when coal's no longer here or relied upon quite as heavily as it is today.
You know, if the federal government would put the money that they've put into green energy, if they would, the technology money they put in or tried to develop all that, if they would have just focused on clean coal technology, Chris, there's no doubt we could pretty much mine for many, 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 many more years.
You know, one of the pet peeves of mine in the whole discussion of clean coal technologies is, you know, I've been around this business several years now, and I have seen all the improvement with our air quality, like our water quality. We have actually removed upwards of 90+% of all airborne constituents. You know, we dealt with the sulfur issue, dealt with the airborne contaminants, have dealt with NOx and SOx and ash, and you know, you look at an emission stream coming out of one of our utilities, and you know, you see a pure stream. If anything, there's a little bit of steam from the process.
But a lot of people don't realize that's steam. They all think
No.
it's smoke.
No, I know. But my point with all that is, you know, we've invested billions of dollars into clean coal technologies over the past 25, 30 years. We're consuming twice as much as we were in the 70s of coal through coal-fired electricity, but we've cleaned the emissions up to almost where there's zero emissions today. Clean coal technology has done its job. Clean coal is here today, is my point.
It is.
I mean, it is here today.
But it could have been here sooner if the federal government would have helped us get here sooner.
Yes, no question about that. You know, we talk about steam coal a lot, and the closure of the 400 plants over the past couple of years has really hurt the steam coal production consumption, and that's what's being challenged by this abundance of natural gas we have today as well.
Yeah.
But you know, we can talk about renewables and some of the challenges that steam coal has. Met coal, or the high-grade metallurgical coal that's used in the production and manufacturing of steel, you know, cannot be substituted by wind or solar.
They've got to have, and we do have the best grade of met.
We really do, and I'm not sure a lot of people realize that, you know, we have these two different separate coal fields or coal deposits, and one's steam that's used to generate electricity, and the other is steel that is sent all over the world for steel production, and that part of the industry is most likely going to have a niche in the global economy going forward for a long time.
Well, Chris, we were just talking the other day over at the Capitol about how some companies will ship their met coal overseas to go through a coking oven and then bring the coke back over. So it's, I mean, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. And
the vessels pass each other somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you go over and you dump, and then you bring a load of the other product back, which doesn't make any sense because, I mean, that's double handling and everything.
Yeah.
But you know as good as I do, but the public needs to know, why does that happen? Is over regulations.
It's policy.
Just,
It's public policy.
And you know, we need, as Jason now the Coal Association the other day, I like his thinking. You know, let's put some coking plants in southern West Virginia. Then that way, you know, coke is a lot lighter than met coal. So, you know, that to me, God, that would just make a lot of sense, and you know, that would bring a lot of jobs into southern West Virginia. You know, you go down to North Carolina and you tell them you're from West Virginia, and you get a job like that.
Yeah.
I'd like for those people that went down there to come back. I want to bring population back to West
It
Virginia.
appears you indicated after last election, over the course of the last